On behalf of Development WA and the CRC for Water Sensitive Cities, welcome to the East Village at Knutsford virtual tour. My name's Josh Byrne and I'm part of the project team that's been working on East Village for a number of years. Before we get started, we'd like to acknowledge that the tour is being undertaken on traditional lands of the Whadjuk Noongar peoples, and we respect their spiritual connection to country. Let's get started. East Village is a 1.5 hectare medium density residential infill development being delivered by Development WA, the State Government Development Agency. We're about 1.5 kilometres from the CBD of Fremantle. The site itself is a former industrial site and it's part of a wider urban regeneration precinct known as Knutsford. There are 3 titles on the site. Where we are now is part of a 36 townhome survey strata development, and there's also 2 apartment sites. What we're going to be looking at today is a combination of the lot scale as well as the development scale innovations that are presenting East Village at Knutsford as a leading example of sustainable urbanism. The townhomes, which are currently under construction, incorporate a range of integrated energy and water initiatives which will make them very comfortable to live in and also very cost effective to run. To start with, they're all being built to a minimum of 7.5 stars under the National Housing Energy Rating Scheme, which of course is honoured above the mandated 6-star at the moment. In addition to that, they incorporate a range of energy efficiency features through the inclusion of things like highly efficient fixtures, air-sourced heat pumps for hot water heating, rooftop PV with 6.6 kilowatt of panels and a 5 kilowatt inverter that makes that energy available to use in real time, with any surplus energy being exported to the precinct battery, which we'll have a look at a little bit later on. That of course means that energy can be brought back from that battery to power the homes at night. There are 7,000 litre rainwater tanks installed on each of the lots already. They will sit under the future carports. They were installed during the civil works phase, which was the most practical and cost-effective way to do it with this type of development. That rainwater will be used to supply the toilets and also the washing machines, which is what is normally done when rainwater harvesting is incorporated into residential developments like this. But we've gone one step further in that rainwater is also being used to supply the hot water system, so it can be used for things like shower and bath, which is the largest internal water use. And the hot water system itself becomes the way that that water is disinfected. And the heat pump energy is being provided from the rooftop solar. So you can really see it's that connection there of understanding the energy and water nexus. Also, there's generous garden space for each of the townhomes. They're compact buildings. They've been designed with different arrangements, different bedroom numbers, so there's diverse products for different people who want to buy into East Village. They also include some homes that have work from home configurations, and also some have separate livable areas that sit above the carports, which we term Fonzie flats. And the idea is to provide some diversity even within this type of similar townhome type building. As far as the garden spaces go, each townhome has a north-facing courtyard space with designated deep root zones, so deep-rooted trees can be planted, and of course this is an important part of providing thermal comfort not only to the homes themselves but to help make up that broader canopy across the rest of East Village. So all up, you've got homes that are very comfortable, cost-effective to run, with much lower energy and water efficiency requirements. All up, we're expecting to see about an 80% reduction in mains water use through a combination of rainwater harvesting, water efficiency, and also the provision of non-drinking water for irrigation through a strata bore, which we'll go and look at now. I'm standing on top of the groundwater bore, which is sunk to a depth of around 40 metres into the superficial aquifer that sits beneath the ground. Now, groundwater, of course, is commonly used in Perth to irrigate parks and public spaces. What's different here is that in addition to irrigating the public realm landscaping, it also supplies each of the individual lots and the future apartment sites to provide a low cost, low energy, fit-for-purpose source of water. But importantly, we have a clear understanding of the likely local recharge of groundwater from the way that stormwater is harvested and infiltrates on this site back into the groundwater. If we move next to us here, we have a 670 kilowatt hour shared battery. As I flagged earlier, the power that's generated from the 36 townhomes from the rooftop solar will feed this battery during the day, which will charge up and then provide that energy back to the homes over night time. Now, all up, East Village at Knutsford will be a net zero energy development. That means it's generating more energy than it uses over the balance of the year. Now, of course, all of these design and technology features are really exciting, but it's important to remember that they actually sit within a future thriving, green, cooling, water-sensitive landscape. The landscape design for East Village has been driven by a desire to create a cool and shady space. So what we've done is look at all of the public realm, such as this main private road that runs through the middle. So it reads like shared space for pedestrians, and there's even things like barbecues and shade structures here. But they've been planted in such a way that once these trees are established, there'll be full canopy coverage. We've carefully positioned deciduous trees on the northern sides of future buildings, so in winter you get full light coming in to warm the homes and also make sure that the solar panels aren't shaded out. When we look at the hard stand that's throughout the development, it's all being graded in such a way where the stormwater is directed initially to garden beds, if you like rain gardens, and that helps with putting soil moisture around the roots to get good tree growth. But the bigger events will actually infiltrate into a series of infiltration galleries located around the site to recharge the groundwater, which is what we then pick up in the shared bore to provide that water as irrigation to the lots and the public realm during summer. One of the really cool initiatives of the project has been the retrofitting of the surrounding street verges, which of course are owned by the city of Fremantle. What was done was, where the opportunities allowed by way of alignment and grade, is the stormwater is now captured off those roads and directed into shallow roadside swales to put that moisture around the base of the trees, so we'll get good strong trees into the future. And there's a really interesting plant palette that's been used. So we wanted to move away from the business as usual sort of local and regional water-wise native plants only, and actually mix that up with a range of other species that provide biodiversity and food production benefits too. So there are trees like figs and pomegranates and mulberries incorporated into different parts of the landscape. So there's food production for humans as well as food from the native species for wildlife. Now you've got a bit of a feel for the features that have been incorporated in the design of East Village at Knutsford. We're going to have a chat with Dr. Mike Moritz, who is well recognised as a leader, in fact, arguably a pioneer of water-sensitive urban design in Australia. And I want to get his take on where East Village sits in terms of contributing to a water-sensitive future. Mike, what's special about East Village at Knutsford?
I think it's special on a whole range of fronts. It's special because of the design process that was invested in by Development WA as the head developer of the site. It's special because of all of the different players that came together as partners in that process, university partners, professionals, and the community, because we actually had a whole community process that this project was sat within the whole Knutsford precinct.
And what is the role of projects like this that, in addition to being a commercially viable project for Development WA, also have a leadership, status? What impact does that have on progressing the water-sensitive agenda?
I think that's the key thing, getting development demonstrations like this that really illustrate what's possible and learning from that and putting documenting that from an academic point of view, but it also helps industry significantly understand what they can do outside of a small site like this.
What do you think are some of the key learnings I guess the benefits that this project has shown from a commercial perspective, as far as infrastructure, servicing, creating a product that's highly sellable, but also benefits the surrounding system as far as water, servicing, engineering, the like.
Yeah. Well, one of the things we did as part of the whole evaluation of the project was, what are the costs of a normal development, and then what's the cost of this particular type of style of development, to try and really benchmark. I mean, you're not comparing apples with apples, but that's what we tried to do to illustrate that it broke even and washed its face on all of those fronts. And one little example was the things you talked about before around integrating or absorbing all the stormwater on site rather than having it integrate into the local stormwater system. There's a sump down the road that would have had to been expanded at great cost, either extra area or extra depth, and that's all been solved by good integrated design.
So there are real system benefits that come from projects like this.
Yeah, and it's this, and I suppose the way to think about it is, it's the design professionals all working together under a good leadership frame, if you like, or a good innovation frame, and having things like the One Planet Living framework to help guide that, and all the work that was done by the team to actually model up and going through all the different optioneering, if you like, of the water and the energy systems to work out what will work inside a cost envelope.
What are the next steps from here? How do we make sure that the learnings from this project contribute to the scaling up of water-sensitive urban design?
Well, I guess one of the fantastic opportunities that's happened here is because it's been put in place with all of the smarts, the data collection, we're able to actually really document the learnings that come out of the experience, as the development turns into a living environment with, community in it. So, we've modelled all of the performance. Now we need to test it from a real point of view, and the fantastic thing is we've been able to link that into a complex within the site which will collect all that data, the so-called Legacy Living Lab, that will be there to actually collect all that data and evaluate that data as it moves forward. So that's the data part of it, but the bigger advantage is having something that people can feel and touch and see that it can be done, and then as we learn more about the metrics, the performance, we can share that with industry more and more to illustrate that it's not that hard to do. And that's really, really going to be more and more important in the Perth context and everywhere because of drying climate. We need to be able to really figure out how to solve these problems, not just on a relatively small site like this, but in bigger subdivisions that get developed and in other urban renewal projects around Perth and around Australia generally.
Well, that's given you a bit of a taste for East Village at Knutsford and what an exciting project it is. Already, even though it's still under construction, it's helped inspire and inform a suite of projects, and also been championed by the CRC for water sensitive cities, and will be the subject of further testing through its tools and resources that will be made available widely. It's also important to stop and reflect on the fact that this project has already been recognised by One Planet Living as a global leader, as a One Planet Living community, a huge achievement and amongst only a handful of these types of projects around the world. So watch this space, see how it comes out of the ground, and there's lots to learn and share. Thanks for joining us.